Hey, hello. This is John Davis with Action Coach, Davis Business Coaching. I'm here with Steve Cole of Sams and Cole LLC. They're a legal firm, and Steve, I'll just turn it to you. Just briefly, what do you do? What can you tell us about your company?
Well, John, we're both Brian Sams and I are boys from Georgia. I grew up in Decatur. He grew up in Cobb County. We went to law school together and stayed. He was my lawyer when I wasn't practicing with him, if I had a problem.
Right.
And he's referred me a lot of stuff. And about 15 years ago, I left the law firm I was with, and his partner was retiring. So it just seemed like a normal move for us. And we started practicing together back in 2005 was when we actually started Sams and Cole. But
okay, so just a natural fit.
Yeah, it was two friends that had worked together on a lot of files going into business together, and we found out later we were related.
Well, that's funny. I'll leave that for another time. So why did you start? I mean, you talked about the opportunistic, but what is it that made you say, I want to go work on my own or with one partner versus another firm?
No, I think it was ingrained in me from a very early age. I still say my dad died in 98, but he's still my earthly hero. And he he had his own business, and he actually was a lawyer too, but he didn't actively practice so much. He pretty much did it to help people. He would, the ladies at church needed wills or that kind of stuff. He'd probate stuff like that. He would handle legal issues for his company, which was a tool supply company down near what is now Atlantic Station. But I just watched him from a young boy working for himself, and I didn't think I thought that's the way you did it. I didn't think you worked for other people. You just went out and hung a shingle or opened a door or whatever it was and do your very best at it. And I was lucky that I thought being a lawyer, because everybody kept saying, "Oh, your dad's a lawyer, you'll be one." And I said, "No, I'm not going to be a lawyer." And then I graduated. My dad went to Tech and I went to Georgia, and I graduated with a degree in biology. Didn't know what I was going to do with that. My father was a chemical engineer at Tech, so I went into chemistry and I didn't like it, so I switched to biology because I could keep credits. And then I went and worked at a ski resort out in Colorado for a season, and then I came back and I could go back to Georgia for one more year and get a degree in journalism, and because I was searching for what I wanted to do. He was nice enough. I went back to do that. And then my last semester of journalism, I had to take a constitutional law course, which everybody said, "Oh, it's so hard." They hated it, all the bad stuff about it. But it actually came kind of easy to me. So I thought, well, maybe I do have an aptitude for this. So I worked for
maybe I'll learn something at the dinner table, right?
I worked for a graphic design firm, ad agency type of thing for a year. And then I decided I applied and went back to law school. And 3 years later, they said I could practice law, gave me an oath. And it's what I've been doing ever since 1984.
You touched on some similarities there. My dad is a CPA, and he had his own firm. And his dad was a title lawyer in Baltimore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's funny when you were talking about your dad, kind of how he did it, just kind of the neighborhood type lawyer. And it's interesting. And by the way, I didn't think I was ever going to be an entrepreneur. I kind of had the itch, but I didn't know why. And it wasn't until I made the switch that I was like, wait a minute. I heard that. But it was funny too, because I think, you said your dad's 98. My grandfather he'd definitely be older than that, but, grew through the Depression and all that. But as a lawyer, his thing was not about sales and marketing, right? He says, lawyers you don't market yourself.
They didn't sell. That's exactly right.
Like you said, you hung a shingle. That was marketing. That was the extent of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And
word of mouth.
Yeah.
Word of mouth was how you got your clients. Yeah.
Exactly. So that impacted my grandfather's business, obviously, but not drastically. And because people weren't so transient, right? So people kind of just knew who people were. It did impact my dad's business in the 80s and 90s, because then you had to start marketing. And if you still try to do, I meet people all the time who work solely on word of mouth, and I'm not saying you can't do it because referrals are a great way to grow a business. Lowest cost, best return, but it's also you can't control it as much. So just some thoughts as you were sharing that. It just struck me.
Right, and that's the it problem for a lot of lawyers, because you have to. It's a personal business. You can't. I think a lot of people, maybe it is changing. People choose their doctors now, not necessarily by who they are or what they do. They got a referral about it. Lawyers, I mean, a lot of my clients come from other lawyers. A lot of lawyers that want to do just the closing part of a real estate transaction. There's other sides to it, and somebody wants to be represented in the transaction, they'll refer them to me. They'll still do the closing, but I'll represent the buyer or the seller separately. And I don't want to get into it here because I don't think it makes much sense. But if you think about it, there's a lot of legal stuff going on in a real estate transaction, but it all gets hidden under something called the Georgia Association of Realtors, which is not a government agency. It's a club that real estate agents belong to. And they all say, well, this is a Georgia Association. This is a Georgia Association of Real Estate form. And they like to throw it out there like it's a government approved form, but it's not. It's just a form that the lobby for the real estate agents approved.
Right. So, I just came out of a networking meeting earlier today. We have a lawyer in there, and he was very clear as to who is his target audience and who is not. Right. Kind of what you said. And I think because lawyers are referring to each other in that way, I think people get away with that. Like I say, get away with that. It's not the right way to say it. It works in that industry. Maybe it's a better way.
More and more people are specializing, and they don't want to get outside the parameters of that specialization. Whereas it's the beauty of being a lawyer. If tomorrow I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney, I could do it. Now, every one of my clients would go to jail because I don't know what I'm doing effectively. But there's no limitation on me if I want to make that turn. And what we've done, we've just slowly expanded our expertise to more than just representing businesses or in litigation or just doing real estate closings, to a periphery of things around those two things that other people don't do as a general rule.
So let me ask you this then, it kind of we're hinting around it. What makes your business different than others in your space? How would people know when they need to come to Sam's and Cole versus?
Well, I mean, we're our results that we typically get, which I can't convey really in a talking session, are pretty dang good. And I'm proud of the fact that most of my clients have become my friends over the years. So to me, I know that's a throwback, but to me, that's a sense of accomplishment. If you can represent them through a trying issue, or maybe it's a happy issue, maybe they're buying a big business and we're representing them do that. But at the end of the day, I'll play golf with them on a regular basis, or we'll go out and get something to eat, or they'll just call, tell me about their grandfather who just passed away that I found out about, when we were representing them. So it's not a big volume. Our office is not big volume. It's more every case, including the little bitty ones. We take very seriously because we're just not built on volume.
It makes it personal. It's a personal engagement.
Absolutely.
Right? That's what I'm hearing. Yeah. Okay. So then obviously, so like your target audience is your existing client base, which is a good thing. But are there any other types of folks? Like if I met somebody, how would I know that they're a good fit for you?
Well, let's keep it in the realm of real estate because that's just easy to talk about. It goes in a lot of other areas. But more and more people will say, I don't really understand what's going on in this transaction. Is there somebody that can represent me? And immediately the first thought in their head, I think, is it's going to be too expensive. I can't do that. But you'd be surprised. I mean, it's still a lot of money, but I represent a lot of people for $1,500 from contract to closing. And it's just a flat fee. I don't do it on an hourly basis, and hourly is where you get surprised. If I bill out $300 or $400 or $500 an hour. And then I estimated the cost to be $1,500, but at the end of the day, it's $6,000. That's kind of hard to deal with from a consumer standpoint.
Right.
So we're very conscious of that consumer element of it, and we try to be very honest on the front end of what we think it's going to be, and if it's going to get outside that factor, we talk to them about it long before it happens.
Okay, so maybe not a not a price buyer, but a budget conscious person who needs somebody they can trust to give them good legal advice.
And I think everybody, if they'll be honest, are cost conscious, and they might want to pretend like they're not, but at the end of the day, they are.
Oh, it's always a factor for sure.
Yeah.
But okay, understood. What are any business lessons you've had in the last 15, 17 years of, well, you said 40 years, I think, but then you and Brian have been together, it sounds like 17 years. What are your business lessons?
I'm sorry, what was the question, John?
So what are the lessons that you have learned as a business owner that you think other people would want to benefit from, could benefit from?
I'm not trying to preach. That's not my what I'm trying to do, but treat other people like you want to be treated in the same and similar circumstance. I try to project what would be going through my mind of my clients, whether I may know it or not, and I try to be responsive for things they're concerned about. And we just talked about one was cost. I try to be sure they know that I'm going to send them a bill. We don't discount our services, and a lot of people do. I don't think that's a good thing either, because when you cut costs to get money, to get business, you're going to cut something out that they need done.
Right.
You just can't justify doing it. So, I mean, I don't get it. I was on the phone with somebody today, and they said, well, I'm going to sell my house for sale by owner, but I don't know what to do, because usually have a real estate agent in that slot that might help guide them whatever they need to do. And I said, well, I can represent you when you sell your house by owner. You just find the buyer, we'll prepare the contract, we'll follow all the due diligence through the process. And if you want to close, another attorney had referred it to me. So I said, I would suggest we go back and close with the attorney that referred it to me, because I think that's the right thing to do. If that person was nice enough to refer it to me, I don't think it's something I should do is try to steal that business from them.
Right.
But representing, I enjoy representing instead of representing the bank in the closing, which is very repetitive. It doesn't change much at all.
Right.
It gets boring at some point in time. I would rather represent the buyer or the seller, because there's always something coming up that requires us to be creative with the rules. So there's rules we have to play under, but there's nothing stopping us from being creative with those rules.
Right. Okay. So if somebody wants to connect with you, or if they got a family member or business owner that they think needs to talk to you, what's the best way for them to engage you and connect with you?
Well, I typically I'll get an email and I'll return a phone call, or I'll get a phone call that'll come in as a voicemail, and I'll before the end of the day, I'll try to call them back.
Okay. I know I have it. Here it is. So steve.cole@samscole.com.
Correct. And my partner is brian.sams@samscole.com. It's not really difficult.
No, pretty simple. Yep. Okay. And then this number that you gave me on the form, is that a cell phone or a business phone? 4727?
552-4727. That's the office phone. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 770-552-4727. Okay. Right. And then, so kind of what's next for the business? What do you see? Where are you going to take the business next?
Well, my goal is to
the level that you're comfort sharing. I should have prefaced that.
Do what?
To the level that you're comfortable sharing. I should have prefaced that.
Well, we're not. Well, I'm it's no secret. I mean, the easy part of our business is doing the transactional work. We know what we're going to make per file, because it doesn't really change, probably between $100 to that file because the title insurance is the only thing that would make a change, really. But it's great business because you're paid, and you don't have to wait for a fee to be paid. It's collected at closing, and you just do numbers. If I can do, there's law firms around here that do hundreds of closings a month, and if you make $2,000 a file, you can figure out their income pretty quick. And then there's a lot that do 20 a month, or 15 or 10 a month, or 50 a month. So my goal is there's a number in my mind that I want us to reach that lays dirt on the floor, if you will, for our business. And then our profit typically comes from representing somebody in litigation, or in or they're buying and selling a business, which is a little more.
You have a base target each year from recurring business, and then you have events that push you up and over above that.
Correct. Most of my business has come from, I guess, over the last 5 years, builders. Some are in and out of the market depending on what's going on, and refinances, which right now are not really that prevalent because the rates have gone from 3 to 6.
Yeah,
most people that are going to refinance have already done it, and they're not going to refinance to take a higher rate.
Yeah,
so
that was the rage 2 years ago. That's not now.
Yeah, but we also in that same area, we represented banks that had foreclosed on property and they were selling the property. Now, we weren't involved with the foreclosure, but once they got it in house, they used us. They didn't retain us. It's not like they paid us money every month to handle files, but they were consistent in sending us business, and we would be doing the closing. And people say you can't represent anybody else in a closing if you're representing the lender, which that's not necessarily true. The seller and the lender aren't at odds ever in the transaction, and the buyer and the lender aren't at odds. But what's good for the lender isn't necessarily good for the buyer. So we don't typically represent in that transaction. We didn't hardly ever represent the buyer and handle the transaction for the foreclosing lender. We always represented the seller and the lender providing the money for the buyer. But again, they don't, in my mind, there's not a conflict of interest between those two entities. And that's what you're worried about as an attorney, that you don't have divided loyalties in a transaction, so you can make the best decision you can for that client in that situation.
Yeah, that's a big thing. That's one thing I do like when the lawyers that I've spoken to, there's still a code of ethics. They still, recognize and respect those lines that cannot be crossed. I've run into that with a number of people in a number of years, and despite what they say about lawyers on TV, I'll have to say that most
you always love your lawyer and you hate the other guy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I just kind of one last question, Steve. Is there anything else you want to make sure that anybody who's out there listening knows about, Samson Cole or Steve Cole, as a lawyer that
Well, we're not a big firm like you have downtown. We're in Cobb County, in north part of Cobb County. So Cherokee, Forsyth, Fulton, all those are places we work in, or we have clients coming from. I just want them to know that we're very versatile. I mean, you just get so pigeonholed, like we're criminal defense attorneys. Okay, that's great. Right. You represent criminals. Well, we're plaintiffs litigation attorneys. That's great. You represent people that are initiating a lawsuit. We do all that, but we do so many other things than that. And part of what we do is we counsel clients in the decision-making process. Like, is this a good deal to buy? You have to go through that decision, and we whether they want it or not. Well, I'm sure maybe they don't want it, but we give them our opinion on it, and they take it and use it as they see fit.
Well, they should want it. They're paying you for it. They might.
And I hate to say it, we're just a throwback. We're what lawyers were in the 50s, the 60s, that now everybody is running for. Well, in this foreclosure stuff, part of the problem was lawyers were trying to combine as many foreclosing entities as they could to maximize their client base, to maximize their income.
Right.
We never. I mean, we would try to increase avenues of that kind of business, but it consolidated. And then I can't emphasize how much the interest rate going down affected us in a good way, and the interest rate going up affected us in a wrong way. And when the interest rates were in Atlanta was weird. We were in a situation where there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of inventory, and builders were being very not strict is not the word I'm looking for. They were being very straight line on what they would and would not do. Whereas in a normal business, it was negotiable.
Yeah, the power gets swung for a while.
Yeah. Take it or leave it. Yes, the way it was.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah, I've certainly lived that down here. So, well, thank you, Steve. It was great chatting with you. I enjoyed our time. And thanks for sharing something about your business with us.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much, John.
My pleasure. Thank you.